everybody. Welcome to Embracing Wisdom with Stacie. That's me. Today, we're going to dive into my favorite topic, which is gratitude. I talk about gratitude all the time. If you've been hanging out with me for a while, you know my story on gratitude, but I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest. Years and years ago, when I was a completely different person, asleep at the wheel, totally toxic, totally unaware, I was a mess. And I had somebody suggest to me going to the dollar store and picking up a notebook and every day writing down three things you're grateful for. And there was a couple rules to this message. You couldn't write down the same three things. It couldn't be the obvious things like your friends, your family, your house, your dog, and you couldn't repeat these things within 1 week. So I was like, this is silly and crazy. But because when people ask me to do something, I have a tendency to do it. Even if I don't want to do it, I will do it. And I started writing down things that I was grateful for. And after like the third or fourth day, I was running out of things, like how I couldn't repeat. So I had to look for things. And that's what started the ball going in my life that totally changed my experience and who I am. And maybe it just unearthed the person I always was that had been completely buried by crap. And to this day, in my office, I have a bookshelf that's packed with gratitude journals because it's something that I took and it totally transformed my life. Now it's changed a little bit. It's not so much that I write down three things every day. I started to get a little deeper. I started to think, why am I grateful for these things? And I realized that oftentimes the things that we're grateful for, those are the touchable things, right? The dog. We can pet the dog. We're so grateful for the dog. We have a house. We have four walls. The house is in a great location. I have a beautiful garden. I'm grateful for the garden. I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for my dog. There's people in my life that I'm grateful for. Those are such tangible things. I'm grateful for the abundance in my life. All of those things can be touched, right? And so as my gratitude practice has evolved, I realized it's not about the tangible things. It is not about that which can be touched. I want to identify that which cannot be touched and focus my gratitude there. And so, as I have sort of polished this practice, it's something that I do every day. It's time well spent every day. It's not so much that I just list out what I'm grateful for, but I really spend time with the feeling on the backside of gratitude. And what I mean by that is let's say for example my home. I'm so grateful for my home. Why? Why am I grateful for it? Well, because it provides me safety. Well, why is safety important to me? Because I like to feel secure. I like to feel cared for. I like to feel contentment. And so I've taken that which I can touch, the walls of my house, and I've identified the feelings that I get while I'm in the house. You can't touch contentment. You can't touch safety. So that's the untouchable, non tangible reason why I'm grateful for my home. And I'll tell you a funny little story that happened to me as I was thinking about why gratitude is so important to me and how, as human beings, we all have a tendency to long for things that we don't have, thinking that that would make us happier. And so, if you've been sort of partnering up with me over the last year or so, my life has changed drastically where I used to work 7 days a week, every single day. I was on the go, commuting, driving hundreds of miles, three, four, 5 times a week to teach adaptive yoga in assisted livings. And then all of that came to a stop when my hip replacement decided to get infected. And so the last 14 months, I've not been able to get back into those buildings. I had a short little hiatus where I was back for maybe 3 weeks, and then my hip decided that's not working for me. So, in that process of having such a great identity to being an adaptive yoga teacher in the community for years, over a decade, nearly 2 decades of my life, I was identified with that. And so there has been and continues to be a ton of grief and uncertainty and loss around something that I've put my soul into and what I believe I'm here to do. And now all of a sudden that's gone. And so I became a seeker of joy last year. I was on the hunt every single day for something that would bring me joy. And so, of course, being outside and gardening, that is a great source of joy. Creating things is joyful. And so I embarked on this baking thing. Now, prior to last year, I didn't even own flour or sugar. Like, I never baked anything. If I did bake something, it came from a box. Like, I just was not a baker. And I used to buy cookie dough. Like, I used to buy cookie dough, and I can't imagine that. Anyway, so didn't own flour or sugar, was not a baker. Wanted to try something new, so I started with the sourdough craze. I'm a few years late. Everybody got on the sourdough craze during COVID, and so I started sourdough baking last year while I was looking for joy. And I took that beautiful source of joy and turned it into a little business where once, twice a month, I load up this beautiful rack on my porch, fill it with breads and sweets and treats and body butters and essential oils and all the things that I love. I put it out on my porch, and people come and they pick up some fresh bread and scones and cookies and muffins and all the good things. And so that has brought a ton of joy to me. And on Friday, when I was in my kitchen and I'm kneading the bread, and with sourdough, you have to stretch it and fold it, and you get to play with it and you shape it, and it's just so fun. I was wishing in that moment that I had more counter space, that my kitchen's very small. And I'm trying to mix the bread here and stretch the bread here and shape the bread there. And I've got cupcakes over there and frosting piled up. And I just had no room. And I was getting frustrated. And because I enjoy what other people are doing in the sourdough world, I spend a lot of time watching other people. And I see some of these young girls with these sprawling kitchens with slabs of granite. And I'm just thinking, oh, wouldn't that be amazing to just shape some bread with all that space? And so there's this envy that pops up around bread, but it's not about the bread. It's about the spacious kitchens and the clean lines, and there's no clutter, and it's bread baking heaven. And I was thinking about that while I'm cluttered and moving things, and the bowl of bananas is in my way, and I'm frustrated. And I'm trying to do what I'm joyful thing that I'm doing. And I caught myself with this envy. And so I stopped right then and there and was like, hold on a minute. What is it that is emerging? What is seeking to come out in this moment? And then I realized like, yes, having more space would be great. Having a bigger piece of working space, that which I can touch would be great. But what cannot be touched is where my feet were planted in my kitchen in that moment of envy was the same spot that my feet have stepped for over 50 years. Because I'm fortunate enough to have purchased the house I grew up in, there was my infant feet in that spot at one time, holding onto the counters, watching my mom bake. There was the young girl peeking up to see what was in the bowl, watching my mom, asking my mom if I could stir, pulling a chair over to the counter and helping her dump in the sugar. All of those seasons of my life led me to being right there the other day, 54 years old, and that you cannot touch. You cannot touch the memories of being a child, growing up in the kitchen, standing in the very place that my mom stood, my grandmother stood, making meals, baking bread. You can't touch that. And how lucky am I? How fortunate am I to be able to stand in the same spot that my whole life has been, and the memories that are in my heart and in my mind. And some of the tools that I have, the utensils that I have are my grandmother's. That's something that's special that no big slab of granite is going to give me. And so I realized, like, again, there's that gratitude practice coming forth in my life. I could be grateful to have more touchable space, or I could be grateful that I get this opportunity to bake in the same kitchen that I grew up in and have years and years of memories. So when we think about a gratitude practice, or when we think about envy or jealousy or longing for something, I think one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves is to step back and ask ourselves, what is asking to be heard right now? What is looking to be looked at or seen? What is seeking to be emerged? What's coming out of me right now? Is it really envy? And if it is, why? Why am I envious of this slab of granite? So I have more space. Whoop de doo. Do I have the richness of knowing my feet have stood in the same spot as generations? I don't think so. And so I find myself identifying the things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for friendships because they give me space to be accountable. They hold my feet to the fire. They're honest, they're real, they're loving. And that makes me feel vibrant and alive. That makes me feel like I'm part of something. I love my home because it provides me safety and security and a vast vault of memories. I love my dog because he brings me joy. I love gardening because I can see progress. I can see the fruits of my labor. I can learn to be patient. I can learn to have faith. I can trust that when I put those seeds in, they're going to grow. They might not grow in the spot that I put them in because I do have squirrels, but there's so many lessons to gardening. There's joy, there's quietness, there's nurturing, there's so much that is not touchable. And so my gratitude practice has changed so much over the last 25, 26, 27, 28 years, from back to when there was that very angry young mom trying to figure out her place in the world. It's changed a lot, but the foundation of gratitude and the common denominator of gratitude that I have found is looking for the untouchable, the feelings that we have around what it is that we're grateful for. If we're grateful for greasy pizza, it's because it fills our belly and makes us feel comfortable. Like, there's always an untouchable, whatever you're grateful for. Ask yourself why, and you will find that untouchable place. So I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to advise you. I'm going to suggest to you that you start a gratitude practice if you have not. And if you say that you're a grateful person and that, oh, you're grateful, I encourage you to go deeper. Get it on paper. Start writing it down. Start writing down why you're grateful. And then go back and look at where is the untouchables in that gratitude practice, because I guarantee you that's where the richness lies. All right, that's what I got for you. Have a beautiful day and go create your best life and be grateful. See ya.